Do you think that maybe, I wonder why people were so sort of angry about this. Do you think you talk about literary concepts and sort of a subtext where you gave criticism and the account in sort of a more subtle way? Do you think maybe this just went over people's heads, or perhaps they were expecting more from you on this?
Yeah, although I think the author does one thing and then readers do another thing, and the meaning of the work is in both the writing and the reception. And so I don't think it's right to tell readers that they read the book wrongly, because I think it would take away the kind of freedom that you exactly want them to have when they engage with the work. I think some of the conversations were probably productive, some other conversations needed to be had. Some things perhaps pointed at gaps in the Albanian literature, in the way in which things were being recounted, and so perhaps there's be other authors who will pick up the slack and continue the conversation. So I don't think, I'm very reluctant to tell readers how they should read the work. I think part of the point of a work of that kind is to open conversations rather than close them. And I feel if I were to instruct the public on what is the right way and what were my intentions and so on, I would undermine in some way the point of the work.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting what you said, we can't instruct the readers. And I think the same could be said, you can't instruct an author on how to tell their own story.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was in part one of the problems of communist Albania and of the tradition of engaging with arts, is that sometimes you'd have critics who would go to an art exhibition and would say, the painter didn't depict the sun in the right way, or the worker wasn't smiling enough, or in my case of the book, the characters weren't crying enough. And
Yeah.
I feel there is a risk that one just repeats those canons, even though we're in a different time and place. There's a risk that some of those methods are actually still very deeply in people, and that they engage with art in a way that is instructing the author and instructing the artist on how to conduct their products. But again, I don't think you should be hostile to that. I think you should be open to criticism and listen, and because I think it tells you something about the country, it tells you something about the way in which certain experiences are being processed even 30 years after. It tells you something about mentality that perhaps survives the fall of the structures, and one can always learn from critics, however harsh they are.